Margaret sat in her cozy living room, sunlight streaming through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns on the floor. At 82, she found comfort in the small details of her daily routine, the way her tea brewed and the sound of birds chirping outside. Her life had changed since her husband, Robert, passed away a year ago. Now, the house felt different, as if it had lost some of its warmth without his presence. Their marriage had been built on love and laughter. They had been partners for over 50 years, creating memories that echoed through every corner of their home. Margaret remembered their wedding day, filled with joy and uncertainty. She smiled at how Robert had nervously fumbled with his vows before finally managing to utter them with quiet strength. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. Their life unfolded like a beautiful story, complete with adventures, late-night talks, and shared dreams. Though there were challenges, a few tough years when they struggled to raise their children and maintain their jobs. Those moments only strengthened their bond. Robert was always there to hold her hand and reassure her during difficult times, his comforting presence like a warm blanket. They cherished simple pleasures, from gardening together to long walks in the park and holding hands, feeling as though they were the only two people in the world. As months turned into years, they adapted to life's changing seasons together. The couple's laugh lines deepened, their hair turned silver, but their hearts remained youthful as they reminisced about their past adventures. They often delighted in telling family stories over dinner and enjoyed hosting their grandchildren for weekend visits filled with games and laughter. But losing Robert left a hole in Margaret's heart that felt impossible to fill. The ache of his absence was ever present, reminding her of moments they would never share again, like sipping tea together on chilly mornings or dancing in the living room to their favorite songs. Somehow, being alone amplified everything she missed about him. One day, Margaret decided it was time to step away from her lonely routine and explore Robert's workshop, which had been untouched since his passing. It was a small shed at the bottom of their garden where he had spent countless hours tinkering and repairing things, the place where his creativity thrived. Despite feeling apprehensive about what she might find inside, a flicker of curiosity sparked within her. As she approached the workshop door, Margaret remembered how excited Robert would get when he discovered new tools or started a project. The wooden door creaked open as she stepped inside, and dust motes danced in the sunlight that streamed through the cracked windows. The familiar scent of wood shavings and old paint enveloped her like an embrace from the past. She moved slowly through the cluttered space, tracing her fingers over various tools left behind. An old saw here, a paintbrush there. Each item held memories. They told stories of late nights spent working together on projects for their home or gifts for family members. A smile appeared as she recalled how he once made a birdhouse for their grandchildren that drew chirping friends from nearby trees. But that smile faltered when something caught her eye. A dusty box sitting on an old workbench covered in sawdust and forgotten tools. It was not large, but seemed out of place against the backdrop of chaos surrounding it. Hesitantly drawn to it, Margaret brushed off the grime that had collected over time. The box felt heavier than it looked. "What secrets do you hold?" she murmured under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. With trembling hands, she opened the lid and gasped at what lay inside. A collection of old letters tied with faded ribbon, photographs that seemed to look back at her from another lifetime, and small mementos that spoke of memories long hidden. As she sorted through these items one by one, an unsettling mix of nostalgia and apprehension filled her heart. Each letter had neat handwriting that she recognized as Robert's own, but bore dates from years before they met. They were addressed to someone who was not her. Confusion swelled within her as she began reading snippets that hinted at unshared experiences and emotions she had never known about. In that moment, surrounded by remnants from Robert's past life before their marriage, a sense of loss washed over Margaret anew. If these were pieces of him she had never seen before, what else lay hidden? Their love story felt fragile now against this unexpected revelation. Still holding on to those memories of laughter and love forged over so many years, she realized that discovering this dusty box would be a turning point. Just as it held truths about Robert's past, moments that shaped him, it also signified a quest for understanding who he truly was, beyond just being her husband. With one more look at the dust-covered box before gently closing it again, she knew deep down this journey into her husband's hidden history would change everything. It would shatter and redefine not just what she thought she knew, but also what it meant to love someone so deeply for all those years. As Margaret took a breath to steady herself amid rising emotions, she braced for what lay ahead. A truth that could unveil layers of their life better left untouched or bravely faced for healing and understanding to take place. As Margaret stood in the doorway of Robert's workshop, a wave of nostalgia washed over her. The small shed, tucked away at the bottom of their garden, was a treasure trove of memories and remnants of a life lived creatively. She remembered how excited Robert would get when he discovered new tools or embarked on projects that would last for days, sometimes weeks. It was more than just a place to work. It was his sanctuary, where he felt most alive. The wooden door creaked as she pushed it open wider, revealing the cluttered interior that seemed frozen in time. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that filtered through the cracked windows, illuminating the shelves lined with jars filled with screws, nails, and odd pieces of hardware. The scent of aged wood mingled with hints of oil and paint, creating a comforting aroma that reminded her of late nights spent together in this very space. Every corner held items that told stories, tools that had been worn down by years of use and love. An old handsaw hung proudly on the wall, its blade dulled but still sharp enough for memories to cut through Margaret's heart. Nearby sat a collection of paintbrushes, their bristles stiff from years of drying paint. They were remnants from the many projects Robert had undertaken around their home. Each brush spoke volumes about his creativity and passion for making things beautiful. Margaret walked deeper into the workshop, her fingers grazing over an assortment of wooden shelves laden with supplies. She smiled at the sight of an unfinished birdhouse, its simple shape waiting patiently for Robert's skilled hands to bring it to completion. It was a project he had started for their grandchildren, but never finished. She could almost hear his laughter as he explained how to paint it bright colors so they could attract friendly birds. The table in the center was cluttered, yet organized in Robert's unique way. Papers strewn about with notes scribbled in his careful handwriting were mixed with toolboxes and half-completed projects that showed glimpses of his genius. Margaret remembered how proud he was when he built furniture or crafted gifts for family members. Each creation held a piece of himself. As she explored the space further, she spotted an old radio sitting on a shelf, its surface coated with dust. It had once filled the workshop with music while Robert worked on various projects, providing a joyful backdrop to his creative endeavors. Margaret chuckled softly at the memories it held. She could picture him dancing around while humming along to their favorite tunes, or even stopping mid-project to sing out loud as if no one were watching. Her heart swelled with affection as she recalled how they often played music together while cooking or gardening. Moments that stitched their lives together like threads in a rich tapestry. The workshop had been more than just a place for tools. It was where laughter bloomed and love flourished amidst sawdust and paint. But today, as she inhaled deeply and took in all these cherished items, there was also an unmistakable sense of loss hanging heavy in the air. The workshop felt eerily quiet without Robert's presence. Even the tools seemed muted without his guiding touch. Each object reminded her not only of joy, but also of absence, the bittersweet reality that he would never return to this creative haven again. Margaret paused at a wall covered with photographs pinned up haphazardly, a collage capturing snapshots from different seasons of their lives together. There were pictures from family gatherings filled with laughter and joy, moments frozen in time where they celebrated anniversaries and birthdays surrounded by loved ones. She traced her fingers over each face represented there. Children now grown up and living lives far away, as if attempting to recall every detail captured on those glossy prints. One photograph caught her eye. It depicted Robert smiling broadly as he held up a trophy from a woodworking competition he had entered years ago. It reminded her just how proud he had been. He would often tell stories about what inspired him to create each piece he crafted with such dedication and care. Feeling overwhelmed by emotions swirling inside her chest, Margaret took a step back and surveyed the entire workshop once more. This place held not only tools and projects, but also whispers of love shared over decades. The laughter echoing off the walls like familiar songs played softly in her heart. Yet amid all these reminders lay something else, a reality now facing her head-on. This workshop contained echoes from Robert's past that she hadn't known before his death. While exploring this sacred space should have filled her heart with warmth and joy, today it felt like opening Pandora's box instead. A mix of cherished memories laced with questions about what remained hidden beneath the surface. With every item she touched today came another layer peeling back. The realization that alongside love, there were untold stories waiting to be uncovered. Moments both beautiful and painful, woven into their lives together. The thought lingered like dust particles floating through beams of light. What more did this workshop hold? What truths might come to light amid all these cherished items? As Margaret stood surrounded by remnants from Robert's life, his passions laid bare before her. She understood that this journey into his world meant confronting not only memories, but also parts of him she had yet to discover. And though fear gripped her heart about what lay ahead, she felt an undeniable pull toward uncovering those secrets hidden within these beloved walls. An exploration perhaps meant to lead to healing or understanding as much as it might lead to heartbreak. As Margaret wandered deeper into the workshop, her heart a mix of warmth and sorrow, something caught her eye. A small, dusty box nestled under a pile of old canvas sheets and discarded paint cans. It was not much larger than a shoebox, but the way it sat there, half hidden and forgotten, stirred a curiosity within her that she hadn't felt since Robert's passing. Her heart raced as she knelt down to retrieve it, brushing off layers of dust that had accumulated over the years. The box felt heavier than it looked, almost as if it were burdened with secrets waiting to spill out. Margaret hesitated for a moment, feeling a twinge of apprehension about what she might uncover. Yet, the pull of curiosity was too strong to resist. What could be inside? Could it contain pieces of Robert's past that she had never known? With trembling hands, she lifted the lid slowly, its hinges creaking softly in protest. As she opened it, a faint, musty smell wafted up, mingling with the familiar scents of wood and oil that filled the workshop. Inside lay a collection of neatly tied letters, wrapped in a faded ribbon, alongside photographs that seemed to capture moments from another lifetime. Each item beckoned to her like an invitation to explore a world she had never been part of. Margaret's breath hitched as she reached for the letters first. They were yellowed with age, their edges frayed, indicating they had been cherished, or perhaps frequently read. The handwriting was unmistakably Robert's, elegant and flowing. But the dates on the envelopes confused her. They were from years before they had met, addressed to someone named Clara, a name she had never heard before. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out one letter and began to read. The words spoke of longing and dreams, painting vivid pictures of moments shared between Robert and Clara. As she read, Margaret felt her heart tighten. These were not just letters. They were windows into Robert's past, a past he had kept hidden from her. Each line tugged at her emotions, revealing facets of Robert that she had never known existed. He spoke fondly of adventures they had taken together, places they had visited, and dreams they had shared. It was as if she were looking at her husband through a different lens, a lens that showed love in a way that felt foreign, yet strangely familiar. Margaret's mind raced with questions. Who was Clara? What kind of relationship did they have? Did Robert ever truly move on from her? The weight of these revelations pressed heavily on her chest, creating a mix of confusion and sadness that threatened to overflow. She set the letter aside gently and reached for the photographs nestled beneath it. As she flipped through them one by one, each image told a story. Robert smiling brightly in some, his eyes sparkling with joy. In others, he looked contemplative or wistful. He appeared younger in these photos, full of life and promise. There were pictures of him with Clara at various locations. A park where they laughed together under blooming trees. A beach where they stood hand in hand watching the waves crash against the shore. Margaret felt like an intruder in these intimate moments captured on film. Each photograph revealed treasured memories shared between two people who had once loved deeply. With every glance at Clara's smiling face beside Robert's, Margaret felt a pang of jealousy mixed with sadness. The realization that another woman had held such significance in his life. Tears welled up in her eyes as she continued sifting through the contents of the box. She stumbled upon small mementos, trinkets that seemed to hold stories all their own. A pressed flower encased between sheets of paper, a tiny seashell from their beach outings, and even a delicate silver locket that Margaret recognized belonged to Clara. Holding on to these items made Margaret feel like she was standing at the intersection of two worlds, hers and Clara's, both connected by Robert, but separated by time and unshared experiences. She felt overwhelmed by emotion as she began to realize how much of Robert's life had remained unknown to her throughout their decades together. Could it be that love could exist in layers? That even after 50 years spent building their life together, there were still parts of him that she would never fully understand? The thought both thrilled and frightened her. Margaret took a deep breath to steady herself as unfamiliar feelings washed over her. Anger mixed with sorrow blended into acceptance. She understood that this discovery would force her to confront not only the memories they built together, but also those left untouched. The fragments of Robert's past blending uncomfortably with their shared love story. With each letter read and each photograph studied, Margaret felt herself embarking on an emotional journey fraught with questions, yet ripe with opportunity for understanding. She had stepped into this workshop seeking solace amid loneliness, but now found herself standing on the brink of revelation about love's complexities. As she closed the box gently, heart pounding with anticipation and fear alike, Margaret realized this dusty box held more than just remnants from Robert's past. It held keys to understanding not only who he was, but also who they had been together throughout their lives. A journey that could redefine everything she thought she knew about love and loss. Feeling both anxious and resolute, she understood that opening this box would lead her down a path toward truths that might shatter everything, but also provide clarity about the man who had filled her life with so much joy. And so began Margaret's quest, not merely for answers, but for healing and closure as well. Amid echoes from both past loves intertwined within her heart, alongside enduring devotion toward the man who had been her partner through thick and thin for so many years. With the box now open, Margaret felt as though she had stepped into a different world, a world that held memories and stories that had been kept from her for years. Nestled inside were the yellowed letters, tied together with a fraying ribbon, their edges crinkled from age. She could hardly believe that this small collection could contain so much of Robert's life. Moments that had shaped him but remained hidden from her until now. Her fingers brushed the delicate paper, hesitant yet eager to delve into the past. Carefully, she untied the ribbon and lifted out the first letter. The handwriting was unmistakably Robert's, neat and flowing, yet tinged with an emotion she didn't recognize. As she began to read, the words enveloped her like a warm hug turned cold, revealing his affection for Clara, his hopes and dreams for their future. He wrote about places they visited in early spring, the blooming flowers in parks where they shared laughter and made promises under sunny skies. Memories he recorded seemed to jump off the page, igniting feelings of joy interlaced with betrayal within Margaret's heart. It was as if she were reading about another man entirely, one who once held dreams intertwined with Clara's name. The details painted vivid images in her mind. Words flowed like vibrant watercolor on canvas, telling stories of adventures and deep emotional connections that felt foreign yet achingly familiar. How could he have shared such moments with another when they had built a tapestry of love together over 50 years? The thought stirred up a whirlwind of emotions within her. Confusion laced with sorrow and jealousy like an unwelcome guest crashing a celebration. Setting aside the first letter carefully, she reached for another. As she unfolded its creased corners, more heartfelt words spilled onto the page. Messages filled with longing during times apart and declarations of affection written in tones she now realized had belonged to someone else. It became clear that these letters were not just casual correspondence. They were treasures exchanged between two souls deeply in love. Underneath these letters lay photographs that seemed to spring to life as soon as Margaret picked them up. Each snapshot was a window into Robert's past, a kaleidoscope revealing moments where he radiated happiness far removed from their quiet home life together. Pictures depicted him sharing joyful smiles with Clara at places around town, fairgrounds bursting with color during summer nights, or park picnics sprinkled under billowing trees dancing in the breeze. Margaret felt something churn inside her as unfamiliar pangs rose with every photo flipped through. How strange it was to see him carefree beside another woman. Beneath Clara's warm smile in one photograph was Robert casting his gaze toward her, eyes glimmering with happiness that seemed so palpable it almost left Margaret breathless. Yet all she could feel was an aching emptiness. How little did she know of this side of him. Then came unexpected items nestled among the letters. The pressed flower wrapped carefully between pages, emanating a faint scent reminiscent of lavender gardens. Small tokens like an antique keychain engraved with Clara's initials. Even a silver locket containing tiny images of them together at what looked like a wedding long before he met Margaret. These items told tales without uttering a word, each piece revealing layers obscured by time and attachment, fragments piecing together glimpses into Robert's former self. The one before his life merged seamlessly into hers. Stunned by each revelation that sprawled before her eyes, Margaret began to feel overwhelmed by conflicting emotions rising within. Sadness surged alongside anger, while acceptance danced ever so slightly on the edge. A fearsome trio standing guard around truths buried deep beneath years upon years lived together. Could love truly exist in shades? Could there still be parts of those tightly knit bonds forged throughout their marriage that remained untouched by this newfound discovery? She struggled against these thoughts. Perhaps love wasn't simply black or white, but myriad colors waiting patiently for acknowledgement. Even amidst heartbreak, with shaky breaths punctuating silence around her, jumbled pieces spinning endlessly through her mind, she set down each photograph gingerly, as if they were fragile glass, waiting to shatter under pressure. Margaret reflected back on their decades spent building lives intertwined through adversity, only to find herself grappling with shadows cast over cherished memories, shared alongside bittersweet realizations uncovering yesterday's truth engraved within those old letters, meant primarily for someone else altogether. Standard expectations shifted dramatically upon confronting Robert's past, carried forward effortlessly. Painful yet liberating knowing fragments existed beyond passing glances, exchanged across crowded rooms where they laughed and danced away countless hours under stars twinkling overhead. All while life continued changing tides along pathways uncharted together. Since then, taking a momentary pause, etched in awe-filled silence, surrounded by remnants belonging not just to Robert, but also enriched stories invoking feelings somehow familiar despite standing apart. It became clear that understanding meant unraveling complexities entwined, not merely searching desperately for closure or resolution hovering just out of reach. Margaret would navigate these waters carefully moving forward. Revelations uncovered unlocked deeper layers, connecting both love shared alongside unshackled truths long denied. Not always neat nor straightforward, where acceptance blossomed amid complicated legacies left behind, but illuminating paths toward healing forged beyond unfamiliar fears, and perhaps paving new beginnings along corridors shadowed by faded photographs recaptured anew through brighter hopes ignited gently flickering back into life once more. With the box open and a heavy heart, Margaret began sifting through the letters with trembling hands. Each letter revealed new layers of Robert's past that she had never imagined existed. The words printed on the pages felt alive, echoing emotions that stirred deeply within her soul. They were not just letters. They were portals to another life, one where Robert shared thoughts, dreams, and intimate moments with Clara that she had never been privy to. The first letter Margaret read was dated years before their paths crossed. It began with a poetic description of a spring day, filled with colorful blossoms and laughter. Robert spoke about their walks through parks and late-night conversations under the stars, reminiscing about how Clara's laughter felt like music to his ears. As she read on, Margaret's heart sank. This was a man wholly in love, alive with passion and excitement for life. She could almost picture him in those moments, youthful and carefree, filled with hope for a future he envisioned sharing with Clara. How could he have loved her so deeply? She thought, feeling an ache in her chest, creeping ever closer to despair. Margaret's mind raced back to their own shared experiences. Moments filled with laughter and love, built over decades. Yet now it felt shadowed by this revelation. Discovering Robert had woven another story entirely before they even met. Each subsequent letter opened a new chapter in Robert's hidden life. His words painted vivid images of secret adventures. Hikes into the mountains, quiet moments by the riverbank where they planned futures together. Whispers of promises shared in hushed tones. With every line she absorbed, Confusion swirled violently within her heart like a storm. The contrasting love she had known all those years now seemed almost inadequate against the backdrop of what he had once shared. The next letter disclosed feelings of longing when they were apart, a depth of emotion that left Margaret reeling. He poured his heart out about missing Clara during stretches apart for work or family obligations. Each word dripped with sincerity that made her question whether moments spent alone were really just that. Did I compete against memories? She wondered bitterly. As she continued reading through letter after letter, Margaret realized they were filled with declarations of undying love, a sentiment she believed was reserved solely for her after all this time together. The comparisons felt unbearable. It was as if an unseen weight pressed down on her shoulders, suffocating under the realization that Clara had been etched into Robert's very being long before Margaret had walked into his life. A mixture of pain and jealousy bubbled up inside her as thoughts spiraled into questions. Did Robert ever let go of Clara? Was she merely a chapter in his past, or a lingering ghost haunting their marriage? What other secrets lay hidden within those lines? Every unanswered question twisted itself deeper into her fabric of reality. It felt both terrifying and exhilarating at once. Margaret wiped away an unexpected tear pooling at the corner of her eye, while clutching one particular letter tightly, as if it held answers to queries unspoken, yet clamoring for recognition within her heart. A piece penned during what appeared to be a turbulent time in Robert's relationship with Clara, their struggles appearing raw on the page as he sought reassurance from her during doubts he faced. Things are hard. Right now, he wrote, but I believe we can find our way back to each other. These words cut deep. Did their private battles mirror challenges faced later in Margaret's own marriage? Had echoes from this earlier relationship influenced how he navigated their union? Reaching for another letter filled with more dramatic flair than affection, one detailing an evening where they argued but ultimately came back together, left Margaret feeling slightly rattled. Could these memories illuminate shadows cast over their own turbulent moments? She couldn't help but compare when things unraveled between them after years spent trying to keep pieces intact amid changing times. Margaret set down the last letter gently, but it weighed heavily on her thoughts. This emotional unraveling came at great cost. Her heart frayed around edges once considered whole, yet now questioning bonds forged through struggle rather than ease. As stories unfurled, leaving traces lingering behind, like faint whispers beckoning within corridors long untouched, it became evident every relationship carried its own complexities intertwined throughout history, left behind unfurling further into yesterday's tales known only by time itself. Amongst the letters lay photographs depicting youthful vibrancy radiating between Clara and Robert, captured forever in frames. That happiness starkly contrasting against solemnity surrounding Margaret now amidst revelations unveiled. As each click snapped while they enjoyed life together, conveyed joy lost before reaching adulthood themselves. In those happy snapshots, capturing carefree moments bathed in sunlight, she felt ribbons binding slowly, fraying tighter inwardly, as hopes for simple joys cascaded downward toward something dark, lingering out of sight beyond borders formed tightly around walls previously thought solidified forever, but remained paper-thin instead. Stunned yet resolute, amidst emotional landscapes navigating newfound realities, woefully uncharted ahead. A spark ignited alongside cherished memories long buried, might eventually forge deeper connections, not only revealing truths necessary for growth, but perhaps also illuminating brighter hopes scattered among fragments left behind, yearning reunion among echoes past, still intertwining amid uncertain tomorrows, actively unfolding anew. With every letter Margaret read, a storm of emotions swirled within her, leaving her both shaken and bewildered. She set the last letter aside, her hands trembling slightly as thoughts raced through her mind like a chaotic whirlwind. The revelations from the box had opened a door to a part of Robert's life that felt distant yet achingly close. A side of him intertwined with memories she had never known about until now. Margaret leaned back in the chair, letting out a slow breath, trying to calm the unrest deep within her heart. The initial wave of betrayal crashed over her like icy water. How could Robert have shared such intimate feelings and experiences with another woman? Did those moments mean they were somehow more real than what they had? It felt like an invisible chasm had opened between them, carved by the secrets that lay hidden in his past. Yet, amid that sense of betrayal, lingered another feeling, a deeper understanding of complexity. Love was not a singular narrative, but rather an intricate tapestry woven with threads of joy, heartbreak, hope, and regret. Margaret thought back on their own relationship. They had experienced their fair share of ups and downs throughout their 50 years together. It was hard to deny that life had shaped them into what they were. Flawed individuals navigating trials and tribulations alongside one another. Her thoughts turned to the moments when life had thrown challenges their way, times when Robert had been overwhelmed or distant. Had he been carrying Clara's memories with him during those times? This realization made Margaret's heart ache in ways she hadn't anticipated. Understanding how intertwined love can become with loss and longing revealed depths she wasn't prepared to explore. As memories flooded back, snippets of laughter shared over dinners, quiet evenings spent watching television, or lazy mornings filled with whispered conversations, the contrast between those memories and the letter's passionate sentiments twisted in her heart like a knife. How could someone so open-hearted toward Clara also embody that same warmth with her? Did it lessen what they had built together? Margaret pressed her hands tight against her chest as tears brimmed in her eyes. Conflicting emotions surged through every limb. A part of her wanted to feel angry, to lash out at this ghost from Robert's past who seemed intent on intruding upon their sacred space. But another part yearned for compassion toward both Robert and Clara. She knew love could be complicated. It was far from linear. The photographs mingled in her mind alongside the letters. Images depicting joyful moments where he shone brightly with Clara by his side clashed against snapshots capturing quiet nights at home, cuddling under blankets while watching movies together. If there was love for Clara, the kind that awakened hope and passion, couldn't there be room for the enduring love he'd shown Margaret too? With each passing heartbeat reverberating within her thoughts, Margaret began to ponder questions she hadn't considered before. What if Robert's connection with Clara was simply one chapter among many in his story? What if regrets from that time influenced how he approached their marriage? Instead of seeing everything as an affront against their union, she wondered if this revelation might unlock deeper understanding rather than solely bitterness. Tears are allowed, she whispered quietly to herself amidst the stillness surrounding the workshop. Life often brought sorrow along with joy. How perfectly imperfect human connections could struggle against expectations, yet revealed truth about humanity itself became clearer now than ever before. Perhaps Clara's presence held lessons for Margaret, not necessarily about betrayal, but rather about acceptance, the ability to embrace life's complexities while cherishing cherished moments that unfolded even amid tumultuous challenges faced along the way. With every breath calming frantic thoughts swirling within turbulent seas, acceptance unfurled, gently unfolding instead into resolution, forging paths toward compassion where none seemed possible prior. Margaret looked around the workshop again. It had been a sanctuary filled not just with tools, but echoes expressing fragments long hidden beneath years spent building something meaningful alongside each other. The past might ripple through today, yet it needn't define all futures ahead too quietly, beckoning toward brighter tomorrows. She understood now that reconciliation lay not only in forgiving stories interwoven across memories shared between people throughout life, but also understanding vulnerable hearts exposed willingly throughout struggles overcome. Thus, stitching wounds repaired anew, towards infinite layers forming colorful tapestries crafted across time itself, woven meticulously into existence, brimming brightly. Even alongside bittersweet shadows, remaining steadfast, regardless amid complex journeys undertaken since first embarking together decades ago on roads less traveled hand in hand, forever, changed upon discovery anew, awaiting patiently beyond horizons, shimmering gently, beckoning forth. Awaiting tomorrow's embrace, filled endlessly, overflowing hope. Imbued deeply rooted within love, nurtured tenderly blossoming amidst myriad shades, unfurling gracefully around fragile corners held tight. As Margaret sat in the workshop, surrounded by the remnants of Robert's life and the weight of her new discoveries, memories of their time together flooded her mind like a gentle tide. Each recollection contrasted sharply with the revelations from the box, deepening her internal conflict and creating a swell of emotion that threatened to overwhelm her. She remembered their first date, how Robert had taken her to a quaint little restaurant where they laughed and talked for hours. The warm glow of candlelight had cast playful shadows on their faces, and the chemistry between them had ignited something fresh and vibrant. It was a moment filled with hope, and she had felt certain then that they were embarking on a beautiful journey together. How could the man she fell in love with so deeply have harbored a past so rich with affection for another? Flashes of memory flickered through her mind, dancing in their living room as soft music played on rainy evenings, arms wrapped around each other, swaying gently as they moved to the beat. Robert's laughter had rung out, filling the air with happiness as he spun her around, making her feel light and free. Those moments now felt tainted, as if shadows lurked just beneath the surface, whispering reminders of Clara's presence during times when Margaret believed they were utterly alone in their love. She could also recall how Robert had held her hand during their children's births, his grip strong and reassuring. They had shared the joys of parenthood through laughter and sleepless nights, capturing fleeting moments in photographs that they would reminisce over for years. Each snapshot represented love, nurtured through challenges and triumphs, a testament to a life built upon shared dreams. Yet now, contrasting against these treasured memories, were images of Robert with Clara, his youthful exuberance captured in photos that revealed a side of him she never knew existed. In one photograph, he stood by Clara's side at a fair, his eyes twinkling with delight as they shared cotton candy. In another snapshot, they sat under a canopy of stars, looking blissfully content as they whispered promises to one another. How could those moments coexist alongside the love he'd shown her? Did Clara occupy part of his heart even while they built their life together? Margaret pressed her fingers to her temples, trying to make sense of it all. The letters painted a picture of Robert as someone capable of profound love. Not just for her, but for Clara too. This duality stirred up feelings of inadequacy within her. Had she ever truly known him? Or was she simply a continuation of a story that began long before she entered the picture? The juxtaposition between their shared life and Robert's past left Margaret feeling frayed at the edges. Yet there were also memories that offered solace amid emotional chaos. She thought of family gatherings filled with laughter over holiday dinners. Robert's hearty chuckles echoed alongside their children's playful banter. Those moments had been genuine, marked by warmth that enveloped them all. Warmth she believed was solely theirs. But now, Margaret couldn't help but wonder if those joyful gatherings had been infused with memories of Clara lurking just beneath the surface. As tears spilled down her cheeks, she wrestled with these thoughts. Why did he never share this part of himself with me? She whispered to herself, grappling with emotions that felt far too heavy to carry alone. The letters had unearthed secrets that left her feeling exposed and vulnerable in ways she hadn't anticipated. But then she recalled how often Robert would tell her stories about his childhood, how his loving parents had struggled yet persevered through tough times together. He had learned from them the importance of cherishing love while being aware of its imperfections. Perhaps this very lesson applied now more than ever. Love was not meant to be confined or singular, but rather a tapestry woven from threads both bright and dark. With renewed determination coursing through her veins, Margaret began to reconsider the meaning behind these discoveries. She understood that Robert's past was not meant to overshadow their own relationship, but rather add depth to it. A reminder that everyone carries layers within them, shaped by experiences both joyous and painful. As memories continued to flash before her eyes, their wedding day filled with promise, the excitement they felt when purchasing their first home together. The realization dawned on Margaret that perhaps this revelation could serve as an opportunity for healing rather than heartbreak. Instead of viewing Clara as an intruder in their story, she could see her as part of Robert's journey, a chapter that ultimately led him to Margaret. With each breath, Margaret felt clarity rising like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Yes, Robert had loved Clara deeply. Yes, there were complexities woven into their lives together. But those truths didn't erase the love he held for her, nor diminish the commitment they forged over decades spent walking side by side through life. In embracing these revelations rather than shunning them away, she could step forward into a new understanding, one where acceptance flourished and compassion blossomed amid complexities, rather than simply anger or bitterness taking hold. The letters might reveal shadows from Robert's past, but they also illuminated connections that transcended time. A reminder that love could endure even through myriad challenges presented along the way. As Margaret took one last look around the workshop, the sanctuary holding remnants from years gone by, she felt an unexpected sense of peace settle within her heart. They had built something meaningful together. It was time for her to honor both their love and the life he had lived before stepping into what lay ahead, full of hope and resilience, ready to embrace tomorrow's embrace with open arms once more. After days of grappling with her emotions and processing the revelations from Robert's box, Margaret felt an overwhelming need to talk about her experience. She knew she couldn't carry this burden alone. Reaching out to her closest friends, she arranged to meet them for lunch at a local cafe that had always held warm memories of laughter and connection. As she settled into her usual seat at the table, the familiar scents of coffee and baked goods wafted through the air. Her friends, Joan and Linda, arrived shortly after, their faces lighting up with smiles that momentarily lifted the cloud hanging over Margaret's heart. They exchanged warm hugs, but Margaret could sense the underlying concern in their eyes as they took their seats. "Margaret, you've seemed a bit lost lately," Joan began gently, stirring her cup of tea. "Is everything okay?" With a deep breath, Margaret decided it was time to share what she had uncovered. "I found something in Robert's workshop," she started, her voice trembling slightly. "A box filled with letters and photographs. It revealed a side of him I never knew. A relationship he had with another woman named Clara." Joan and Linda exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from concern to understanding. "That sounds..." Intense, Linda said carefully, leaning forward. What did you find out? Margaret recounted the details. The letters filled with heartfelt sentiments, the photographs capturing intimate moments between Robert and Clara. With each word, she felt like a dam was breaking within her. Emotions surged forth as tears pooled in her eyes. I feel so betrayed, she admitted, wiping away a tear. It's as if he shared parts of his heart with her that he never showed me. Joan nodded sympathetically. It's completely normal to feel that way. You loved him deeply for so many years. And now it seems there are pieces missing from that picture. But it's complicated, Margaret continued, feeling the weight of conflicting emotions within her. I can't help but wonder if I was just another chapter in his story, or if our love meant as much to him as Clara's did. Linda reached across the table and squeezed Margaret's hand reassuringly. You're not alone in feeling this way, she said softly. Everyone has layers to their lives. Things they don't always share because they want to protect others or themselves. As the conversation flowed, Margaret found herself reflecting on the complexities of love and relationships. Joan brought up how everyone carries past experiences that shape who they are today. Those experiences can add depth rather than detract from current connections. Think about your journey together, Joan encouraged gently. Robert loved you deeply and built a life with you despite his past. That speaks volumes about his commitment. Margaret considered this perspective as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear thoughtfully. So, you're saying that even though he had this other relationship, it doesn't diminish what we had? Exactly. Linda chimed in with conviction. Love is multifaceted. It doesn't exist in isolation or singularity. She paused before adding softly, Clara was part of his history, a chapter that led him to you. A sense of relief washed over Margaret, as new realizations illuminated pathways previously shrouded in darkness. The conversations allowed her space to explore feelings she had kept locked away. Everything didn't have to be one-dimensional. But how do I come to terms with this? Margaret asked, looking between her friends for answers. It takes time, Joan advised gently. It's natural to feel hurt or angry at first, but allow yourself to grieve both your loss and what you've discovered about Robert. Linda nodded in agreement. And don't forget to celebrate your own journey together. Remember those joyful moments, like when he held your hand during tough times or when you danced together on rainy nights. Those instances matter just as much. Margaret felt a weight lift slightly from her chest at these affirmations. They allowed space for healing among feelings of confusion surrounding Robert's past relationship with Clara. Over lunch, they shared stories about their own relationships, moments marked by joy amid struggles, and laughter emerged like sunshine breaking through clouds overhead. As they reminisced about shared experiences filled with happiness and hardship alike, Margaret felt gratitude seep into the cracks left behind by uncertainty. By the time lunch ended, a delightful mixture of warmth shared between friends. She realized that discussing these revelations not only provided solace, but also helped deepen connections among those who cared for her most. As they walked out into the sunlight together afterward, arms linked casually like young girls once more, Margaret felt lighter than before. Perhaps facing these shadows wouldn't mean losing sight of love, but rather gaining clarity on how deep connections can weave intricate patterns throughout life itself. The support from Joan and Linda ignited hope within her spirit. It assured Margaret that while difficult journeys lay ahead, navigating newfound realities regarding Robert's past, it was okay to seek help along the way, while embracing compassion not only for herself, but also for him as well. Amidst complexities intertwined forevermore, woven deeply alongside countless cherished memories, yet waiting patiently for resolution among bright tomorrows gleaming invitingly before them all. In the quiet moments following her conversations with Joan and Linda, Margaret found herself reflecting deeply on the nature of love and the imperfections of life. Sitting in the soft glow of her living room, she gazed out the window at the garden they had tended together. A patchwork of colors bursting forth that reminded her of the many seasons they had experienced as a couple. Each flower represented a memory, a fragment of their shared journey that was now interwoven with new revelations about Robert's past. Margaret's thoughts drifted to the letters she had discovered in his workshop. They were filled with raw emotion and passion, revealing a side of Robert that had remained hidden from her until now. While initially, those sentiments felt like a betrayal, she began to see them as pieces of a larger puzzle that illustrated Robert's humanity, the complexity of love that could encompass more than one person at different points in life. She thought about how Robert had always been open about his flaws, sharing stories from his childhood, filled with lessons learned through hardship. He taught her that honesty was vital in any relationship, even if it exposed vulnerabilities. Perhaps he withheld details about Clara, not out of deceit, but out of a desire to protect Margaret from unnecessary pain, hoping to preserve the love they had built together. The realization settled uneasily within her. Love could not be confined to singular moments or relationships. It was an ever-evolving tapestry woven from joyous memories and moments of struggle. In understanding this duality, she recognized that it didn't diminish what they shared. Instead, it added depth and richness to their story. As thoughts swirled in her mind, Margaret recalled their wedding day. The promises exchanged under a sky painted with gold and pink hues. She remembered feeling a surge of hope and excitement as they vowed to stand by each other through thick and thin. That day had marked the beginning of their life together, filled with dreams for their future. But life had its way of weaving twists into even the best-laid plans. There were challenges they faced, moments when communication faltered or when misunderstandings bloomed like weeds in their garden. Through it all, they learned patience and forgiveness. Those imperfections shaped their bond. It was not always easy, but it was real. Margaret's heart swelled as she remembered how they would sit up late at night, talking about their dreams and fears, sharing laughter over silly inside jokes, or comforting one another during difficult times. Those memories were golden threads woven tightly into the fabric of her heart. They reminded her that love meant showing up for each other even when life became messy. In contemplating Robert's past with Clara, she began to wonder if those experiences enriched his capacity to love Margaret fully. It wasn't merely about who he loved, but rather how those connections influenced him as a person. The lessons learned along the way, shaping him into the partner she cherished so deeply. As she reflected further, Margaret recognized that this journey was also about her own personal growth. She realized that acceptance didn't mean overlooking Robert's past. It meant embracing its complexity while acknowledging her own feelings as valid and important. The emotional turmoil she felt was part of healing, not only from sadness, but also from learning how to navigate love's intricate layers. With each passing day since discovering the box, Margaret felt herself transforming gradually. The weight on her shoulders began to lighten as she understood that accepting both love and loss could coexist harmoniously within her heart. The imperfections made life beautifully unpredictable. They were reminders that true connections evolved over time and encompassed more than just happiness. Margaret turned toward the framed photographs lining the mantelpiece, pictures capturing happy moments frozen in time. family gatherings filled with laughter, quiet evenings spent holding hands on their porch watching sunsets together. Each snapshot representing resilience woven through years spent building a life together. It became apparent that love could flourish amid complexities without losing its essence. It could endure hardships while still remaining vibrant and full of hope for tomorrow. With renewed determination stirring within her spirit, Margaret understood she had every right to embrace whatever lay ahead, transformed by newfound clarity regarding both Robert's past and her own journey forward. With gratitude filling her heart, she resolved to honor their shared history while continuing to explore how acceptance could shape future connections. This moment served as an invitation to recognize both joys and sorrows intertwined within the fabric of love, fostering growth amidst imperfections while nurturing bright tomorrows waiting patiently beyond horizons yet unseen. As Margaret stepped outside into her garden once more, the air fragrant with blooms, she inhaled deeply, letting serenity wash over her like a gentle wave lapping against shores anew. It was here, in this sacred space, where memories mingled daringly with hopes rekindled, that she felt ready to embrace life fully once again, knowing love would guide her forward through life's unpredictable seas, no matter what lay ahead. As Margaret stood in her garden, surrounded by vibrant blooms that mirrored the complexity of her emotions, she understood that it was time to find peace within the chaos of her heart. The revelations about Robert's past had opened doors she never expected to confront. But through those challenges, she discovered a path toward healing and acceptance. The memories they shared, now tinged with newfound understanding, were no longer solely shadowed by the presence of Clara. Instead, they illuminated the beauty of a life lived together. Taking a deep breath, Margaret felt the warmth of the sun on her skin. She thought about how Robert would often spend his afternoons tending to their garden, lovingly nurturing each plant as if they were the embodiment of their relationship. Rooted deeply, yet growing in different directions. He would want me to honor both our past and what I've learned, she murmured softly to herself. In this moment of clarity, she resolved to create a space where both love and complexity could coexist harmoniously. She envisioned planting a small flower bed dedicated to Robert, one that included blooms representing happiness and remembrance, intertwined with colors symbolizing growth and acceptance. Margaret decided that each flower would serve as a tribute not only to their shared joys, but also to the intricate layers of love that filled their years together. As she knelt down to dig into the soft earth, memories flooded back. Days spent laughing at picnics under trees, evenings curled up beside each other on the couch watching their favorite shows, and late-night conversations that lasted until dawn. Each memory tugged at her heartstrings. It was during these moments that she realized how love had shaped them into who they became individually and as a couple. Reflecting on Clara's influence in Robert's life allowed Margaret to understand that while he had loved deeply before her, it didn't take away from the love he had for her. Instead, it added depth, a richness that transformed their bond into something uniquely beautiful. It was evident now that Robert's experiences allowed him to be more compassionate and understanding as a partner. With every scoop of soil turned over in preparation for planting, Margaret found herself letting go of resentment and replacing it with gratitude for all moments shared throughout their marriage. She wanted this garden bed not just as a reminder of loss, but also as an emblem of resilience, the way relationships adapt and flourish despite imperfections. Once planted, Margaret envisioned spending quiet afternoons there, sipping tea while reminiscing about days gone by or simply basking in nature's embrace. It would become a sacred place for reflection, where she could honor Robert's life fully while cherishing both the light and shadows cast along their journey together. In deciding how best to honor his memory, Margaret understood that both joy and sorrow belonged in her heart. Loving someone meant accepting all aspects of them, the good alongside complexities encountered along life's unpredictable path. As tears glistened softly against her cheeks, like morning dew settling upon petals after dawn, breaks through. A familiar sense of peace enveloped her spirit once again. She realized now how important it was, not only for herself, but also for future relationships, to carry forward lessons learned through struggles faced over time, rather than shying away from them out of fear or bitterness. Love wasn't merely an emotion confined within boundaries, rather, it expanded infinitely over time. Shaping desires weaved throughout everyday lives, lived authentically free. Amidst rocky terrains, walked hand in hand, regardless of thunderstorms threatening overhead. With renewed determination, blooming alongside newly planted flowers around her feet, catching gentle breezes stirring softly in air. Margaret felt ready finally embrace whatever lay ahead without reservation. Having forged tributaries connecting hearts entwined across yesterday's landscape, slowly breaking ground underneath fresh sunlight, glinting onto horizons, waiting patiently, invitingly forth, promising tomorrows anew. Brimming full with endless possibilities, beckoning joyfully toward paths yet unseen, unfolding vibrantly, unfolding gracefully, embracing ever-afters. Waiting gently nestled close within reach, marked unmistakably by eternal love, prevailing above all else, eternally guiding onward, even through stormy seasons unknown. Welcoming bright bouquets, flourishing, blooming passionately, still longing, rejoicing alongside echoes past, glowing brightly radiant, forevermore entwined, beautifully woven into existence. Completing vibrant tapestries crafted along journeys taken together.